Good afternoon. Today, we will be discussing how racism set Detroit's development back 70 years. This is the final project of Introduction to Urban Studies, and these are the topics that will discuss today within this period of time, which is allotted at around 5 minutes or whatever it might be. So, let's see if we can get started. So, the main two ways that I basically decided that the way that the city was set back 70 years was because of the redlining and the white flight that occurred in the city throughout the last, century, when it happened back in the 60s and 50s and the 40s to the 70s and all the way through until Detroit's population kind of dipped down to its lowest point around like a couple years ago, even though that didn't really have much to do with the white people. But so I was basically discussing how power disadvantaged the inhabitants of the cities. And these two things kind of put people in the city at a disadvantage to move forward. When the people left, they had ways of building blocks and creating wealth through their properties, which is basically the main point of like development or like how people move forward through the generations and have money to give to their children and build up their whole entire lives and leave things. So basically, redlining was like strategically placing minorities in areas that weren't as, I guess you could say, nice or developed or new as the area that they lived in. Like if you took an area like they took Black Bottom, right? That was a little development towards the Detroit started in this little box, and it was next to that. So it was earlier on when Detroit first started cityizing or whatever you want to say, call it. And they kind of put the minorities who are immigrating from the South or whoever just wasn't liked, whoever the white people decided that aren't equal to them, they put in these areas which were poor or they're near factories, they have poor soil, or they're closer to things that just weren't conducive to a positive way of living. Whereas the whites, they got to the good areas of Detroit, the newer areas where they had the little new streets and new houses and whatnot. And it's kind of sad how they put the people in these areas and then they want to destroy the areas, and I don't know what they expected to happen. Like if they didn't want them in their neighborhoods, why would you destroy what you gave them? Like wouldn't you want to keep them there so they don't come mess with you? It doesn't make any sense, but that's just what they did. They kept the people they didn't want in their neighborhoods strategically in these areas by not letting them get loans in the white areas or telling the white people that they came here, they were gonna destroy your house value. So if they do come, you gotta go like now. So that was pretty sad, in my opinion, at least. And that's kind of how it set back Detroit's development, because a city's supposed to grow and grow and grow and add more people, more diversity to keep adding wealth to the city. But these practices of keeping people separated did not do well for a city's development. Maybe it did well for the Black Bottom in its time that it existed, but as far as doing well for the city, it just separated it and created just tensions and destruction and stuff that the white people blamed the people that they disadvantaged for, which makes even less sense. But that's essentially how it led into white flight. Blacks or whoever, like I said, whoever they decided just wasn't them, decided to leave the city.
I don't know. Where's over here? You good?
Okay, I'm good. I'm finishing the presentation. That's it.
Okay.
Just ruined my whole entire thing. I'm not starting over. I'm already like 5 minutes in. But before I got interrupted, I was saying that once integration took place and the HOA didn't practice their practices of keeping blacks out of the neighborhoods by not giving them loans or making sure they just couldn't get anywhere or develop any sort of wealth, That's when the white people started leaving and abandoning the city. Once jobs left, they left, and they didn't want to be around the other people. Moved to the suburbs. Suburbs went up and up, and their values went up over the last decades and decades. Meanwhile, the city's homes and businesses just got dilapidated, and they didn't have any structure from people who had money to support these businesses to keep them up or whatever, And that's how it disadvantaged the city. Like, if that didn't happen, if these little practices, these two main reasons why it kept people from gaining wealth and investing in themselves or in their businesses or their lives or their communities, then the city would have flourished. But it didn't. It didn't. And that's a reason why I say that racism kind of took Detroit's development back, whereas other cities kept going up and up. Not all cities, but most cities did that. That's kind of how it worked. That's kind of what happened. I mean, it was just a really messed up thing. That's all I really think about it. And I kind of explained it through this whole entire thing. But Detroit would have been a lot better place if people could put their, issues aside and the government didn't do what they did. It's just a lot that took place in the last 70 years, and slowly it's coming back. It is coming back. And these practices aren't as prevalent as they were back then, but they still will happen to different things and different people with disabilities or whatever, sex or gender, whatever it might be. So, yeah. That's essentially the two things and why I think that Detroit was held back for the last 70 years from becoming the city that it was meant to be, So, I've been myself. I've been Cameron Morrison. This is my presentation. I will apologize for the 30-second interview where I had to get interrupted because they really read this room. But I'm here, and I had to do this, and I did it by any means necessary because it's an assignment. But enough of me talking. Thank you for this opportunity to do this and show my knowledge or what I researched or what I've learned throughout the course. And I've taken this and put it into this encapsulation of a video. But yeah, goodbye.